Their world around the weekend is very different. You go to the digital workforce today and you ask them, how do you define work? They say something which comes in between weekends. Right? According to them, work is something which comes in between weekends. And they say if there's a 3-day weekend, then it's good. For them, the Saturday and Sunday life is very different to the Monday morning, that computer with green color screen and numbers all over. No, that can just psych them out. So what do we do then? Cisco did this Connect survey in the US very recently. And the findings of the survey is this. 1 out of 3 college going student in the West believes internet is a basic need, just like shelter, water and food. So if you define Maslow's hierarchy of needs now, then internet is in your basic need. Basic need in the same line as in food, shelter and home. People are willing to take pay cuts. People are willing to join a company with lower salary if you give them free internet. If you give them a choice of a device, maybe an iPhone 6 and you say 2 lakhs lesser salary, people are okay about it, right? For example, we recently distributed 3,000 iPhones in my office, right? The cost of an iPhone is 62,500 rupees. Now, even if I had given 3,000 people 1 lakh as performance bonus, it wouldn't have been spoken about so much in the market. I did a simple thing about putting 300 iPhones on my table and took a snap and put it up on Facebook. Can you imagine, out of all the posts that I've shared, this post had 2,300 likes. So that's when I realized it's not because of me, it is because of the iPhone, sitting right in front, right? So people are willing to take pay cuts, people are willing to take lesser salary if you are giving them flexibility, mobility at workplace, and also maybe a digital device which they can use it. So we are in a completely a different field altogether. The question then we need to ask ourselves is HR, as HR professionals, are we keeping up to speed? Let me ask you this simple question and then I will invite my first panelist to speak. You get up from bed every day morning. What is the first thing that you do? How many of you straight away get up and go and check your phone? That's about 70-80%. Was it the same 10 years back? It was not. That device called the BlackBerry or the smartphone, and nobody carries a Nokia 1100 these days, though that's the best phone that I've ever seen. The last thing you see before you sleep is your mobile phone. And the first thing that you wake up and see is also your mobile phone. You get bored in a session like this inside, take up a mobile phone. You need to pardon me, I'm running a very, very bad cold and a bad cough. So if that is the case, we can always use this word that we are literally addicted to internet some point in our time. So in our workplace, which means there are companies which says, worldwide survey which says 54% of the companies do not allow social media at the workplace. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, none of this is permitted. Whereas the statistics on the other side exactly talks the opposite. Top 3 things which an employee does: official emails, personal emails, Facebook. Right? So then there is a disconnect somewhere. Right? So the challenge to each one of my panelists is this. Given the chance that we are working with such a digitally savvy workforce, how do we attract them? Should we rely on newspaper advertisements? Should we work on our websites? Should our intranet be better? Should our performance management system be better? I recently went to a company which still rates honesty as one of the parameters in their performance appraisal. And honesty is rated on a 10-point scale. So I asked the HR guy, please help me understand, what is this honesty on a rate of 1 to 10? Please rate. If it is 5, then he is 50% honest. Right? So should our performance management system be more digitally savvy? How do we engage our digital workforce with something like the CSR today? Now, I think CSR is now being used as a large engagement practice in many, many companies. So I would want you to be specific, something that your organization does, right, to engage with your workforce, and any insights, and please feel free. Now, this is not a 4-member panel. We would want adequate time to hear from you because we know that you're all working professionals, some best practices that you might have if you want to share. But my only request is to, when you share, keep it concise so that we can listen to more point of view. On that note, let me welcome my first speaker who will speak on talent acquisition. Yep.
Thank you, Sujit. Sujit set the context. First of all, good morning to all of you. Sujit helped setting the context about the generation, Gen Y. I think this topic has been trending for a very long time. We're talking about how do we engage them, how do we attract them. So specifically on talent acquisition, I'll spend a few minutes, especially what we have done in TCS and what is the trending, or rather what we see from the market, from the students in terms of attracting them. I think if you look at the first thing in terms of any recruitment ad, right, you hardly see any more newspaper ads going in, right? Even when we announced our campus drive, off-campus drive, which is happening on this week, we've invited, this is an all-India campus drive that is happening, and we have not released even a single paper advertisement. Everything is happening through social media. There is recruit through Facebook, Twitter, and likes of it. So, so what we see is this is really most of them. It's easy to catch them on WhatsApp than through anywhere else, right? So everybody is on app, on mobile, and connected through social media. So the biggest impact that social media has created in recruitment is the way we attract them and how we identify through social media. Before I look into how do we attract talent outside and what we have done, we also have a social media platform inside TCS called Nomi, and that has itself helped TCS in a big way to attract talent inside. That is, if I have to tell that we need a Java professional who's got an experience in, let's say, mobile app development plus a combination of C# or anything, practically the resource management team really struggles to find that very quickly, because none of the database captures all the skills that the employee has. But through social media within the company, we're able to get connected and get to know that very quickly. Now, coming back to talent acquisition, how are we attracting the Gen Y population, or rather the campus as well as laterals? We have created a platform in TCS which is for the students. It is called Campus Commune. And it's a digital platform which captures the entire ecosystem of the campus hiring, starting from the student applies to TCS. And then once he engages, once he gets selected, he gets an access to do Aspire program, which is to engage them on various skills, technologies, etc. And then they become an employee of TCS. And around that time, we look at their scores in Aspire, and they get to do a lot of courses through online content before they join the training program. And this entire platform of Campus Commune is nothing but a social media platform created for them, and they can ask questions, they can be part of the entire discussions. There's a various question, debates, polls, everything that is happening in our platform. And we also, the biggest, I think, achievement that we could have done to attract the best among large, let's say the enormous student base that we have across India. So we have close to 500,000 students who are logged on to it. We announced a lot of contests. So we have the biggest coding challenge that has happened in India. It's called Code Vita. So close to 200,000 students in India and across the world have participated. And that gave us a leverage to really test, around 200,000 best coders, to identify 200,000 best coders. I mean, at least to put through 200,000 best coders, and then attract the best 40, 50 or 100 coders from there and give them a job, which wouldn't have been possible without a platform which is, mirroring a social media platform for students. So that's one of the biggest thing, which is in terms of creating, right, from HR point of view, from talent acquisition point of view, creating a platform for the students. I think that's the biggest initiative that I could talk about. And this platform is not only giving us students, it helps us identifying students of various backgrounds, and it gives us it's a mode, it's a medium to attract and test, or really, engage around 500 or 1 lakh students. But it also gives us an insight in terms of what students are thinking. The selected students are on the platform, the people are still aspiring for TCS are on platform. So they come up with a lot of debates. So it gives us insight of what people are thinking at any given point of time. What are their ambitions? What do they look for in a company? What are their technology preferences and all those things? So that helps us to tune our internal ways how we want to train them, right? It gives us, we've done, recently when we asked about what kind of, do you prefer classroom versus an online coaching, or which is any kind of coaching which is not classroom, which is enhanced by, let's say, virtual sessions. Most of the students prefer virtual sessions. So that gives an indication that probably classroom coaching is not the preferred mode of teaching anymore, or at least is an indication at this point of time. So that's one of the changes, or rather something which we have devised to cater to the young generation. That's one of the aspects. And apart from that, I think when we talk about digital, we talk about the young workforce. There is a lot of changes which is happening on the lateral side also. Most of the interviews we are trying to look at doing it in a digital way. That is, we don't really need to call the candidates. We just have to get it video interviewed, and then we can evaluate it and finalize it right then and there. Because we find the whole idea of bringing people to a place and getting them interviewed can always be changed. We really don't need. We need virtual interviews can take place. There are a lot of products in the market which helps us to evaluate them online from wherever they are, and we can test them from remote locations. So these are a lot of changes that I think we are catching up with the digital wave at this point of time, and a lot of let's say the technology is brought into recruitment, I would say.
Thank you. They'll give you a special prize, right? For as a rule, once the speaker finishes, you'll all clap, okay? Just to give him a feeling that he spoke well, right? I don't know how many of you are aware of what TCS does. I think their online intranet is considered one of the best in the market today, and they use gamification in a very, very big manner to attract talent in colleges. So can you imagine, he spoke about this coding competition, which is 9,000 people? 200,000 people, I'm sorry. 200,000 people participating in a coding competition at one stretch is something which is mind-boggling. Now, these are ways and means by which different companies are trying to engage with a larger audience. Now, I've been with Infosys for 14 years now, and I still remember how these tests used to be conducted in one city after the city. The question papers have to be flown in, and there'll be large suitcases which will come by. You have to take about 200, 300 facilitators who will conduct the test. Correct, results will be announced, and the next day interviews happen. And it used to be a cumbersome process. But today, by just going digital on a given day, you can conduct at least, say, very easily at any nooks and corner of this country, easily about close to 100,000 people can take a test at single go. The results are announced on the very same day, and interviews can be conducted in the next 2 to 3 days, and the final list of candidates is also available. So I think we have gone a long, long way by just going digital in the talent acquisition space, at least in this large IT sector. Now, one question that I have for you, you can think over it and answer towards the end. Not everything is rosy when you go digital. There is always ifs and buts there. There is always a doubt, and anything to change, especially for an HR guy to change something conventional, takes a lot of time, because that is how it was done till the last 10 years. Why should we change? From a talent acquisition perspective, think about what has been the major challenge of going digital. Okay, this was extremely difficult to implement, or this was a major challenge that we faced in TCS. Think about it. I'll come back to you during the course of the time. And also, if you have questions, just note it down. You can ask your questions at the end of the session. We now invite Stanley George, who will talk about what do we do in terms of an employee engagement, and also to touch upon few aspects of performance management on going digital. Yeah.
Thanks, Sujit. I think sitting on this stage and being the oldest member, I think, amongst the panel, you see a big gap here, right, between generations. Right, and probably this is the same scenario when we go back to our workplace. As Vignesh has mentioned, he handles the most important part of getting people in. But what happens after that? That's the toughest part. You get youngsters in, you have a whole bunch of old people sitting in the organization, and there is a lot of expectation management that starts. And when employees come in, or when you recruit new people, new blood into the organization, gone are the days when salary used to be the topmost priority. Gone are the days when roles used to be a big time priority. Gone are the days where technology used to play a big role. Today, if I were to recruit somebody, and if somebody has to come into my organization, I think the first thing that anybody will do is go to sites like Glassdoor. And why do they do that? To find out what is the employee experience in the company. I think today, employee experience plays a vital role in how we attract talent into the organization and how we project ourselves outside in order to attract talent. So engagement plays a major role in any organization. And what are the expectations from this Gen Y when they come into an organization? Of course, the salaries, the roles, the technology, the projects, they all play a very major role. But somewhere down the line, there are some expectations from the management. In my own team, in my company, there's a big gap within the HR team. You have people who are about to retire in the organization, and there is new blood that has come in. You can see the kind of friction within the team. The young people, they have technology on their, in their fingerprints. They just want to use a communicator, they want to use a mobile, they want to use social media, they want to use every technology available to get their work done. But what about us? We still live, we still have to sign letters, we still have to do so many things manually. And there's a huge gap. And every day I get complaints, that person is doing this, that person is doing that. And why? Huge gap between the generation. And what are the expectations from these people when they come in, and how do you manage those expectations? Through my experience, I think the first expectation that they normally expect to have from the management is transparency. Now, transparency is something that doesn't come overnight. It has to be there in the DNA of the organization. It has to be there in the DNA of the individuals. And transparency is something that people look forward to. And where does this transparency come from? One is through the management decisions, communication channels, and through the performance management system. Today, not only in my company, many companies that have seen, when it comes to transparency in the performance management, I think that's where people run away. You have the managers, the moment they have to give feedback, you find them missing. Right? The employee has to run after them to get the feedbacks in. There's no transparency. And today's generation, they look forward to this transparency. What is the performance? Today's generation lives on Facebook. You put something up on Facebook, the expectation is they go back to Facebook every second minute to find out how many likes or dislikes are there. They want instant recognition. And how do we recognize? The rewards and recognition system that we had, over a few years back, that's all outdated. Today, people need to have instant recognitions, spot awards, name the awards. They just want to display everything at their desk, right? So this is a generation of instant recognition. Need to have a lot of R&R programs. Number two, when it came to communications, recently we had a program. We had a new CEO taking over a company, and the very first interaction, he had a town hall, he had an open house with all the employees. The first thing that he did, apart from his speech and other things, is he asked us how do we connect with the employees. Because being a very traditional organization, there was a lot of hesitancy of employees approaching the senior management, and this guy wanted to change everything. So the moment he walked into that place where about 3,500 employees were sitting, he came about 10 minutes early, even before the employees could come in. And he shook hands with every employee that walked into that place, that arena. What happened was there was an instant connect. And normally we don't have any questions that's being asked to the senior management. In this event, because of that one handshake where people could connect with the CEO, I don't know what magic transpired, we had to close the session with a lot of questions unanswered. That is the kind of connect the young people they expect. And believe me, today, we are in a situation where they don't trust Stanley, they will not trust Charles, who is my colleague who is sitting here, they will not trust the finance manager. If they want things done, the first thing that they will do is shoot off a mail to the CEO. And the mail has to be routed through the CEO. It doesn't talk about the inefficiency, but it talks about the trust that one handshake has built. That is one aspect. The second aspect is on the work experience. When people come in, what is the kind of experience that we give? Today's people, they are not taken up, they're not taken away by all the jazzy things that you have in office. Gone are the days when, the companies used to provide them laptops, companies used to provide them, tablets, phones. Those days are gone. Now it's BOID, build your own device. We ask the employees, because the gadgets that the employees carry are much more advanced than the gadgets that the company will be able to provide. So we are enabling people to bring their own device and enable security features in that and allow them to access mails, allow them to access data. That is the second big change that we are doing. The third big change is on the retention part. How do we retain employees? That's the toughest part. Given the location of our office, a lot of attractions all around, right? So a person who walks out for a smoke, our office is no smoking zone. So they go down the gate, stand on the roads and smoke, and we don't know whether that fellow is going to come back.
For HR also?
I don't know. So that is the kind of scenario that we live in. And when an employee goes out, we are not sure whether that employee is going to come back because there's a lot of attraction outside and it's just not money. Let me tell you, when I speak to so many employees who leave, when I ask them what is the sole factor, though they might quote money factor to HR so that they get a good release and a good exit, but somewhere back of the line there will be some experience part of it. Saying, this was missing, that was missing, this was lacking. I was expecting this when I came to the company, it didn't happen. And end of the day, it's all that I can say is a differentiating factor if an employee has to stay back in the organization. It is pure employee experience.
Thank you. I think Stanley touched the core. I remember this while we all gone EHR. Right? I remember this famous client visit of us. We had Cadbury visiting us sometime around last year. And on one side of the table, we had the Infosys retail CPG logistics delegation sitting in, and the other side was the Cadbury delegation sitting in. And we were introducing. We said, he's our vice president, 20 years with the company, 22 years in the company, 15 years. The youngest in that group was somebody who was 12 years experience. And then the other side, they started introducing. The senior most was somebody who was 2 years in this company. Almost everybody was new. And then we made this presentation of our company intranet on how everything is EHR, right? Your leave is automated, your travel is automated, your claims are automated, and business card is automated, everything. So you can just pick up your designation, put up, the card will reach your desk. So one guy actually stood up and asked, so except for sneezing in your office, right? Everything there is a system which has been developed. Now Stanley touched this very important point. While EHR can enable things, that human touch is something which can never be taken away, no matter how digital your workforce is. Spoke about trust and transparency and how some of our systems can build in transparency. I think that is what digital is also doing today. Right? If you take your performance management system, a comment which was entered 10 years back is still handy. You can clearly see progress of an individual. So thanks for sharing those insights, Stanley. Now we will move on. Did you clap hands for Stanley? Yeah. All right. It's also one way of staying awake. And they say clapping hands is good for blood circulation. So now I'll go to the youngest speaker, Brinley. He's in all smiles. Brinley, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sujit. So they kept on saying youngest speaker, youngest of the lot, but I was looking at them. I think I had more white hairs than them. White hairs was earlier, it was called Vice, W-I-S-C, and also in Tamil, Vice. But it's not both, it's Ajit style for Gen Y, right? So I'll not stick to my seat. Gen Y is always on the move. I'll prefer to come closer to the crowd. As Sujit introduced, I'm the Rava Kichadi. Last night was a very hectic day. I really hit the bed at 2:30 a.m. Till then I was exchanging messages with my colleagues here that I will be a participant. 7:30 in the morning I get a call, my ex-manager, he says, I'm not well, today you are the speaker. Okay, thank you, I'll be the Rava Kichadi. But hope this Rava Kichadi leaves a good taste in your mouth at the end of the session. I don't know if I got the understanding right, but the topic which was told to me was embrace the dynamic organization and cultivate deep engagement. So that was, I think, which really broadly fits into the broader theme, which is engage the digital workforce, right? So I see two parts of it. The dynamic organization. I think we speak about HR being business partners and things like that, but do we really understand what is changing the business landscape? Dynamic organization. So I was just thinking about it, what is really changing, right? So companies have been historically producing goods and services. They're still producing goods and services, but what's changing? So there's a high level of personalization which is happening, right? So today's customer or the consumer is playing a very key role. He's at the center, that there is so much of personalization that is happening, right? Let's talk about the social world, right? The role social media is playing. I'm sure all of you would have been associated with banks or your network service providers for quite some time. But when you call the customer care, what's the first option you get? Press 1 for English, press 2 for Tamil. How long you've been banking with them? How long you've been using that network service provider? Don't they know the language you speak? Is it so difficult to find out? Right? So organizations have started to personalize. They know I speak English. Every time I call the customer care, I select 1. It's been recorded somewhere. Can't we use that data to personalize? Right? And there's so much personalization which is happening through social media. Sitting here, I can know which of my friend is having diarrhea. Facebook tries to make the world so small, right? So with the increase of social media, I think there is a lot of signals which each person, place, even a thing is sending out. There's so much of codes which are going out from whatever we do, every click, every swipe we do, right? So how are organizations tapping this through social media? So the first change which is happening is social. The second change, mobile. I remember not long time back, just a couple of years back when in my college, I'm sure Sujitana will know, MSW project, 10 of us shared one desktop to do our project. And we will say 30 minutes for me, I'll just write down the abstract, then you. Now list the device. You have a smartphone, you have a tab, you have an iMac or iPad or call it whatever. So many devices are there, right? Research says that by 2016, there's going to be 8 billion devices. And by 2020, there are going to be 50 billion devices which are going to be interconnected. And these devices, which were some time back, which were dumb, right? Phones were not smart. They were just used to call someone at the other end. Today, devices are becoming smart. How about us? Right? Devices are becoming really smart. Phone, with the phone in your hand, you're connected to the entire world. With the tab in your hand, you're connected to the entire world. And what not? Google Glass, right? It's going to change the way you see. So you wear a Google Glass and stand in front of Chennai Trade Center, you'll know there is an ICT, ACT session going on. There are 3 speakers and 1 Kichadi there. Right? So Google Glass is going to change the way people see. There are so many things which are happening. You don't know what next. Even the belt, who knows? It may come with a sensor, with technology inbuilt. It will change color based on the trouser color, shirt color, shoe color. Things are changing. There are going to be huge explosion of devices. So what it means is mobility. Mobility is the second big thing which is changing the entire business landscape. What's next? We've got devices, we've got social media, they all talk to each other, but what happens? Everything which we do online shopping, we text someone, we share something on Facebook. There's so much of data which is created and it goes up somewhere, which we call the cloud, right? So we don't have to really go out of the auditorium and see on top to see the cloud. It's there right above us, inside this room. So what happens? There is so much of data which is being created. And research paper says that 90% of the data which we have today were created in the last 2 years. Surprising and shocking. But that's been the explosion of data. But what do we do with this data, right? It is changing the business landscape. Facebook is a very familiar thing for all of us. Facebook, sometime in September 2006, they made a huge change. They made their huge change. They were a static wall. Right? If you want to go and see Sujit Kumar, you will have to go to his page and see there. So it was more of a static page. And in September 2006, they moved from a static page to a live feed page, where you have live feeds coming in. So today, when someone clicks a photograph and uploads it on Facebook, we know there is a panel of speakers happening there. So there was a huge change from static to live feed. But how did this happen? Why did Facebook do this? And there was so much of data analytics which went behind this big move for Facebook, right? So they call this the edge rank algorithm, where they have noticed or they have kind of had data on every click we make, whose page we go and miss it, what do we look at, is it pictures or videos? They've combined this algorithm together, which is called the edge rank algorithm, and that gave birth to the live data feed. So it's not a simple decision, it's a decision based on data analytics. So analytics is the next big thing which is changing the landscape. The last one which I spoke about is cloud. So these 4 components, S stands for social, M stands for mobility, A for analytics, and C for cloud, is changing the entire business landscape. And don't think it's only going to change the IT industry, because all of us from the panel are from IT. We have participants from manufacturing. We have participants from various sectors here. But IT is changing the entire industry. Today, Nike, which is producing sports shoes and sportswear, is going one step ahead to coming out with a Nike Fuel band, where you wear it. It's more of a health monitor, which talks to your fitness equipments. Right? GE is making brilliant machines which are connected to internet, which will tell them that the machine is going to crash down in the next 10 minutes. So IT is not just changing IT, it's changing the entire world. So what's in it for us as HR? Right? So one part is embracing the dynamic organization. We understand the organization is dynamic, it's changing. Next, cultivate deep engagement. So what do we do? Let's look at these 4 boxes: social, mobile, analytics. Social. Right? For example, Google. So the last time when you Googled, have you ever asked, where did this data come from? Is it from the server in Argentina or Arumbakam? What we were more curious about is the information. So the entity, the human aspect and the information is being separated. What is more important is becoming the content, right? But still with social media, there is a deeper connect than before, than physical proximity. We are far yet connected. Right? So is there something which we can replicate from this, be it the virtualization of human relationships, be it the virtualization of how we map network through LinkedIn, the virtualization of customer centricity, which we can learn from Amazon. Amazon today knows more about you than your local store Anachi. Right? So they are so customized. They know what kind of books you read, what songs you download, what kind of clothes you wear, so that they are able to customize. So similarly, can we tap this social media in HR, right, to transform the way we have been doing rituals? Should we wait for 1 year to do an employee satisfaction survey when instantly people give likes? So now HR process and systems are becoming more ritualistic. yearly affair. Performance appraisal once a year. No, it's an instant world, things are changing. So are we thinking about changing to an instant HR system, process and policy than doing it ritualistic? That's the first point. Mobile, right? So a couple of years back, we lived a life called boiled egg life, where the yolk, the yellow part was work, and the white part was, I would call it personal life. There were clear differentiation. White was white, yellow was yellow, yellow is work, and the white is personal life. But today, it's not the same. We are not boiled egg, we are muttapodimas, egg scramble, right? The lines have been erased. There is a clear mix of the yellow and the white. Why? Because of the explosion of mobile devices. Today, late, what we do at night at the bed, we are still replying to email messages. In the morning with the shorts and with the coat on, we are taking teleconferences from our living room. So the lines of differentiation are changing, right? Our organizations or our HR departments or HR functions within the organization see how things are changing with mobility, right? It's a huge change, it's a huge cultural shift, especially in India. But are we doing that? It's a question which we need to ask ourselves, right? Someone who's able to master the art, are we helping employees to master the art of being a scrambled egg, where he is both productive at work and also is able to enjoy quality family time? Mobility. Analytics, right? So we spoke about how things changed in Facebook. Are we still going to catch hold of someone who's leaving the organization on the last day and say, ask him, why are we leaving? Or instead, can we use data from our swipe records, leave records, performance records, career promotion records, name it, there is so much of data in hand. Can we do predictive analysis and tell this guy is going to leave instead of sitting on the last day and finding out why you are leaving, right? So there is so much of predictive analysis which can be done through data analytics. So this is a competency which I think as HR professionals, we will all together start building, becoming more behavioral scientists, right? So that's the other part of analytics. So maybe I think it's time for us to think, are we thinking social? Are we thinking mobility? Are we thinking analytics in the HR world? So with these thoughts, I will leave you, and your questions, I will leave it to the three panelists there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kichadi was tasty. All right, I'll just, you got a different flavor, and especially you, Brindley spoke about what really the digital workforce is all about, using analytics. Yesterday, there was this employee in my team who had a performance rating of 2, 1 being the highest. She got a 2 and she was very upset and kind of disengaged. So I wrote a mail to her saying, why don't you call me? And she called me and she said, you know what, the last 6 months I've generated so much of reports. I've spent so much of time and effort. Every week I send you this report and all this stuff. My manager always said the reports were good. And, but unfortunately that has never been taken into account, right? And when you look at these reports, the only question I asked her is what did come out of this report, right? If you look at a particular data, now I can challenge any one of you sitting here. Let's present a particular data to this 4-member panel or to this 50 odd people sitting here. Each one of you will be able to make a very, very different inference from the data point that you get. Okay, some of us will be at a very abstract level. We'll say, okay, this is how many male versus female, what is the age, the standard PPT that we put up. Well, some of us will actually dwell into the details to go into minute details and even predict what Brilini spoke about. Who's my next possible attrition case in my unit? I think that is where HR is moving towards it. Now, I have few closure comments. I also have some very specific examples that I wanted to share, which we practice at Infosys. Now, some of this could be useful to you. Some of this you would have heard already, or some you could be hearing this for the first time. And I'm broadly dividing things into 2-3 areas. Now, the first one is a user experience. I think today the most wanted thing, I think Stanley did touch that upon. If an employee's life is very different on a Saturday and Sunday, and Monday is very different, it is going to be extremely difficult to engage with this individual, which means he lives a different life. Now, you look at any of these IT companies which does not have a bring your own device policy. Each one of them will carry 2 mobile phones. Of course, no doubt, the one he carries will be a smartphone. It could be a Samsung or an iPhone or whatever. And then you will find one small Tukda phone, which will be like Nokia 1100. So you can immediately say, okay, that's your company phone, mobile at all. Now, the problem is this guy's lifestyle on a Saturday and Sunday is very different. And when he comes to Monday morning to office, it's very, very different. And there was this recent survey which was done among the Gen Y. Apparently, it is told that Monday is one of the most lousiest days for these guys. Monday morning blues, everybody get that, right? And that's why if you ask managers, if you have the work from home policy, majority of your work from home request comes on a Monday morning. I am not keeping well, my son is not keeping well. It's nothing, it's just that you're not able to push yourself to go to work. And if you work in a place like Mahindra World City, where I work out of, then it's almost like a picnic, okay? 130 kilometers up and down is not a joke. So most of our requests actually comes on a Monday morning, because Monday morning people are not kicked about coming to work. Tuesday is kind of okay, you still push it. Wednesday is when slowly the N2 level comes in, because why? Only 2 more days weekend, right? Thursday, Friday. Thursday generally they say is little productive. Friday, no doubt, one of the most colorful days in office. Because Fridays are normally when IT companies also relaxes the dress code. You can wear whatever you want. Okay, very, very colorful day, right, on Friday. Friday evening is supposed to be the happiness quotient is at the highest. And you know what? They are happy only on Friday and Saturday, not even on a Sunday. Sunday you already worry about only 1 more day off, right? Today only 1 more day off, so you even spoil that particular day. Now, this is the kind of workforce that we are dealing with. Now, for example, if our challenge is to engage with them, then we need to say how much of this can be replicated at work, and is it very difficult? No, the answer is no. We had this concept of an Infosys bulletin board earlier, where people can update scores, cricket scores. I want to buy a shoes, I want to sell my shoes, anything and possible, right? People have sold pickle to whatever, right? Now, only one caveat they put is you cannot write anything against the company. Policy and all the stuff you cannot write, because that was a HR policy then. So what happened, if you remember exactly 3-4 years back, people said, I will not write here, but I will write outside. Okay, so I will create a fake profile for myself. Any Economic Times article, you will go use filthy words down below, and like this Tamil movie, that's exact feeling you get, because people were venting out their frustration outside. Company caught up with this very quickly. No, you cannot wash dirty linen outside. I will create a forum for you right inside the company. Now today, we have something called as an Infi bubble, which is your exact replica of your Facebook. So I can post status, I can add friends, I can send colleague requests, people can like it, people can comment it, and so on and so forth. Very, very easy to implement it, which is you are staying connected. There is something called as a moodometer. Okay, don't get me wrong. It just gets about 3 smileys, right? What is the mood of your day? You had a lousy day with your boss. Let's say Stanley is my boss and he gave me a mouthful today for whatever, and I'm very upset about it. I just put up a sad smiley. You can just go and click. So by the click of the button, I will know what is my general mood of the unit that I manage. I will know what the general mood of the Chennai Development Center as a whole. Out of the 17,000 people, if 8,000 people have clicked it, right? Out of these 8,000 people, how many are extremely happy, how many are happy, how many are sad? Okay, is there something going wrong? Now that's all talks about this data analytics piece coming together. So you have a replica of that within the company. Blogs. People have such creative ideas. People look forward to contribute in a very, very different manner. And especially, if you look at an IT company, 70% of our workforce is Gen Y, and every year, just imagine companies like CTS, TCS, Wipro, Infosys, HCL, some of these large guys who hire every year, the numbers that they hire will be equivalent to a small size IT company. That's the kind of numbers they hire every year, right? Now these guys are kids who are coming from college who have varied interests. Some are musicians, some are sportsmen, some are debate people, and they have such varied interests. You cannot put them into a tall tower structure, which is 13 floors, and you can say this is the place and your computer is all that you have. And that's why you find many of these organizations have many, many clubs and forums. It's only around the middle management time that the middle portion also develops. No lack of exercise and all this stuff. You walk in, I mean, the kind of clubs that we have is unimaginable. There is something called as a Ramanujam Max Club. I never go there. I sponsor the club, but I never go there. They talk about mathematic problem. Chess club, they talk about chess moves. Then you have Toastmasters. We have a rock band called HTTP. Now, their full form is Hardly Time to Practice. Now, that's the name of the band. You have ICC, the Infosys, and all these things could be existing in many, many organizations. The reason is you have to create forums for them to feel at home. Gymnasium. Now, this is a classic policy which sometimes HR guys struggle. Gym can be operated only before and after working hours. Right? You build an office which is outside in the Chengalpet district, and I am not joking. When I started Mahindra World City, I was the first HR manager in Mahindra World City. And as a college kid, whenever I used to go down south, my mother's place was in Ramanathapuram, so I used to go by this government bus. I used to look at this Ford factory there. Anybody from Ford here? I used to tell myself, பைத்தியக்காரங்க எங்க வந்து கட்டிருக்கானுங்க பார் ஆபீஸ். Who will come and work in such far place? Tour போற மாதிரி இருக்கு. Little did I realize that I need to go 8 kilometers beyond that place and work every day. Now, if somebody has to go to office at 8 o'clock in the morning, which means I need to leave home at 6, which means I need to get up at 4:35, right? And evening is even more terrible in that road. If you leave at 5:15, you will reach home at 8 o'clock. And we have a world-class gymnasium, which is as big as a trade center building here, right? Some of the most sophisticated equipments, nobody will be there. Right? So we went and requested, why can't the gym be open? No, client will object. During working hours, we can't do it. And employees will come and spend time here. The employees are already spending time in the food court. We are not stopping them. You want to go for a cup of coffee, and in most of the IT companies, this is very common. These young kids who come in from college, and especially kids from Chennai, where boys and girls cannot talk to each other. You know, there are institutions like that. Boys talk, girls talk, boys, girls no talk, right? The first thing they come to our office and they say, "Hey." So, the very common stuff, you find that in the food court table, guy and girl will be sitting right next. No talking, but just looking at each other for 2 hours. And there will be other employees who will not find space to sit, with food court plates all over. But we are not bothered about those individuals. As per policy, gymnasium cannot be open during working hours. I mean, if you open it, people will work on fitness. You can have a swipe recorder there, swipe out, don't clock during working hours. But what is more important, employees staying fit or paying up for their insurance cost a little later? I challenge you, go and do a health check for your employees. When I try to position this Health Week in Infosys, is something which we did 8 to 9 years back. My manager immediately said, Sujit, our average age is 23. What's the problem? Everybody is fit. And we said we are not giving letters to employees to go and do this health checkup at Apollo or Muller. We are getting the entire facility to my campus, which means right from your blood test to X-ray to scan to every damn medical facility should be available in my campus. And you will be surprised, 27% of our population who went through the health check under the age of 30 were diabetics. BP, heart ailments were all spotted, and now it's a regular feature. Every 6 months we do this as a practice. The money that you spend there is worth every penny because you're saving some life at some point in time. So I think some of these policies, some of the ridiculous policies that we have, it's time that we position it a little differently with the management. If a client is not bothered about 2 individuals sitting in the food court and spending a lot of time, the client should also not be bothered about 2 guys going into the gym and working out, right? So that's on the clubs and stuff like that. Blogs. I'm an avid blogger. I don't blog outside, but I blog within my company, right? And to me, when I see my blogs have hit a 50,000 hit, a 60,000 hit, it's a complete high. You reinvent yourself as a writer. So blogs is another forum that you can definitely encourage people to write and make it available online. I think he covered extensively about Facebook and social media. Today, the trend is also that we send friend requests to our own managers, while some still don't. Sorry. But this is nothing to do with some clearly avoid that, right? So he said, even today we know who's having diarrhea. No, nothing. With that, I really saw a status of a guy who said, down with diarrhea, feeling sad. 71 likes. I said, that guy is down with diarrhea. And what is that like? No, comment. And I normally write long posts, my Facebook posts. And there are two guys, Gen Y guys, who was messaging me, sir, if you can write small, or like போட்டு போயிட்டே இருப்ப sir. Day, நீ like போறதுக்காடா எழுதுறேன் நானு. So look at the way that people are thinking. Now today, people follow managers on Twitter, people follow business leaders on Twitter, people also follow them on Facebook. The only flip side is, you cannot bunk office saying you're ill and put up in a theater watching Enna Erindal in Satyam. Then your manager is going to get a live feed, right? People tweet from office, which is all kind of getting acceptable. Ask this question, how many of you, your organization permit social media at office? How many of you permit Facebook, Twitter, free access, YouTube? Slowly going down. Complete free access without restricted. Yeah? Okay, that's good. Because some organizations do it only in the evening. Some said based on business needs, right? And things like that. But I think it's time that you open this up, and if we can put up a business case. We have two features which is very unique, and that is on the communication part which Stanley spoke about. There was this time when you go and do this kind of a communication, town halls. But how many town halls will you do if you have 25,000 employees in one campus? Where will you get 25,000 people? So we started an Infi TV. Okay, we had it headquartered, we had a studio in Bangalore. All leadership communication was coming out as a radio channel, as a TV channel, very nice programs, yoga programs. So it's all available. You can watch it from your laptop, right? Then we realized Gen X liked that idea. Gen Y did not like the idea because each of them was 20 minutes capsule, right? And we noticed Gen Y liked listening to music. They were hooking them up with iPod and stuff like that. So we said, why not start a radio channel? So we have something called as Infi Radio. We have an in-house RJ who used to work with Radio Mirchi earlier. We hired her. So she will do programs between 11 and 4 every day. Songs, your latest songs, whatever you listen to radio, you will get to hear that. Majority of them will be in Hindi and English and some regional numbers. And in between advertisements, which is the nagging part, the advertisement, we use that 30 minutes, 30 seconds, 45 seconds clip to give messages to employees. Today, retail CPG logistics won the Walmart deal worth 2 million. So that is one information which is going. Vishal Sikka will be addressing a town hall today. So any of these things started coming in. We started celebrating some of our leaders' success as interviews. So how you call Dhanush for an interview with Big FM? We said, here is a star achiever in our midst. So she or she will share his experiences, interspersed with music. I think that was a huge hit among employees. So roughly if you walk into Infosys campus, you will find people with their headphones on, but working, listening to music, all on the official platform, right? So that's one way of digitally connecting. Because the previous generation always believed, concentrate and work. You cannot do two things at a time. Work is work. If you listen to music, then your concentration will go for a toss. This generation believes I can do 5 different things at the same time. You mind your business, right? So Infi Radio is a classic example. On performance management, I think this is a puzzle which not many companies have really cracked it. And this is also an area where not everybody is going to be happy either, right? Because there is an element of subjectivity which comes in when the final rating and if you have a bell curve to fit in. So I want to touch upon what Stanley spoke about, transparency. Now, if you can build a system which can be extremely transparent about the ratings, more importantly about your goals, because the employees hate one statement during the annual appraisal cycle. I expected more out of you. And we never defined what that more was, right? You never told me, till yesterday you never told me what my goals were. So if we can look at systems and tools which can clearly identify what our goals are, what our KPIs are, I think that's the first step. For any organization which is trying to build a good performance management system, here is one piece of advice that I can give you, having been part of that particular track. Don't jump just and buy a system from somewhere or stereotype a particular system which is existing in another organization which is working fine and implement it. You are in for a disaster. Even if it takes 1 year, when it comes to performance management, the single largest problem that we have seen is to basically identify the problem. We are not good people when it comes to identifying the problem. When it comes to performance management, please identify the problem, what it all means, and then start building your solutions accordingly to it. So which means, today going digital, what is the biggest advantage? The biggest advantage is every data of an employee, right from his first appraisal to the last appraisal, is available online for you. It's available to you as a manager, it's available to anybody, and in an IT industry, you cannot stick with the same manager for more than, say, about 2 years. Average span that you work with the same manager is 2.5 years, because either that guy goes on site, or he quits and goes to another company. So if I change from Stanley to, say, Brindley, Brindley needs to have access to my data completely, and that can happen only if it is digital. Can you imagine 22,000 physical files of an employee with all performance records? It's unimaginable. Two is, if you're talking about 360-degree feedback, how can all this be plowed back to a personal development plan finally? Now today, the biggest problem which this generation comes back and talks to us is, you have great systems. For example, the performance management system will be built by the OD guys, the component system will be built by the CNB guys, right? Your e-docket will be done by the ER guys, but none of these three systems will talk to each other. So the same employee has to go feed in the data multiple times. Which is that one day you want to forget in your life, in the entire company that you're working for? Having from joined till now, if there is one day that you would want to forget, wow, that was a horrible day. If you say every day, joining day. Most often than not, it is the joining day that we all want to forget, because of the numerous forms that you signed on that day. The same form will be filled up multiple times. During a recruitment time, the interview stage, there will be a personal data form. When you join the company, again you fill up a same form with just 1 or 2 minor modification. How much time will it take for you to take this information and pass it on? A PF form. So the first day, literally the guy keeps filling up forms after forms after forms. Going digital starts right there, and that's the user experience that we are talking about. Can I just say a digital signature? I put up here, it goes up wherever it is required. Once the data is available, can it populate in different fields? And for that, it's not about, and that is where large companies suffer from this syndrome, that I built a tool. I built a tool. So each one of us will build a tool, and none of these tools will talk to each other. That's the biggest problem that digital workforce is talking about today. So as HR professionals, if you're building a tool, a performance management system is finally linked to the CNB system. An appraisal starts, rating comes up, he has to get his comp review letter in time. So if these two departments don't talk to each other, if these two systems don't talk to each other, then there is no great checks about going digital. We also had something on policy on probation. Now this is a very interesting idea. What happens normally, there is a policy which got formulated, it will be rolled out to employees. Popular policy, employees were always happy about it. But there are certain policies, when you pull back certain things, employees were not happy about it. So we said, here is the deal. We put up a policy, and it is on probation for the first 6 months. It is available on the intranet. You as an employee are free to go and comment what are the positives and negatives of the policy. You can also vote. If majority of our employees are voting for the policy, then the policy gets implemented. Otherwise, it just gets called off. The only caveat is not all policies can go up there. Right? There are certain business decisions that can be taken which will not go up there. But for example, if I have to have the dress code policy, EdgeVerve is a subsidiary of Infosys. You would have heard about it. It's a product platform company. My good friend is the head of HR of EdgeVerve, and the dress code policy says this. Our dress code policy is that we do not have a dress code. This is a policy document. I'm not joking. This is exactly there. Our dress code policy is that we do not have a dress code policy. Why should you then have it? Because it is mandated that as if you are an HR department, then you need to have A, B, C, D. So we have a policy, right? Now just look at, for a guy who's just coming in and to read this, wow, this is like super cool, isn't it? Right? On the contrary, if you look at my Infosys dress code policy on Mondays, gentlemen need to wear this, girls need to wear this. No, it's sometimes it sounds obnoxious. He covered about BIOD. Other transparency thing today people are talking about is, in our practice, any meeting that is conducted, and if there is an action item, it's available on the intranet with the concerned stakeholder's name published right there. Right? It's available in public domain for all our employees who has to work on it. So invariably what he said, then there was a huge reluctance to this, huge reluctance to say, don't put my name, and especially if it is a facility related, an HR related query or anything to do with business, people are not okay about it. But we said that's the only way ownership will come in, and somebody is going to track your progress. And you know what? All these meetings, when we ask something, yeah, work in progress, next month, next week we will do it. All this nonsense stopped right there. People are now questioning you in a public forum, so you better get things done. Now, one area where we did not cover much is on CSR, right? Now, as an HR fraternity, my request is this. Please do not look at CSR as a 2% spend that we need to do. In my opinion, it is one of the best way to engage your staff for a cause. And there is no better generation than the digital workforce that you have. The Gen Y workforce are the most socially responsible crowd than the Gen X, than the baby boomers. And I can prove it to you with data. You take an organization called TFI, Teach for India, right? How many of you have been part of TFI? Have you visited any of the schools where TFI teaches? Yeah? TFI works in government corporation schools, and they adopt a school, and people go on sabbatical and work for TFI. They get a small stipend. So for example, if you get a 50,000 rupee salary in an IT company, they will pay you 20,000 rupees. But you need to teach government corporation school kids. 97% of TFI volunteers across the country are less than 26 years old. 96%, right? What does it say? I mean, that's only one organization. You don't find a Gen X, you don't find a VP, vice president, who has made all his money, who has a great house, car, and he's settled for life. You don't find that guy quitting his job and doing volunteering work. This guy who's yet to settle in life is willing to go on a sabbatical for 2 years and going and working for a cause. So that way, each one of your staff member, they are extremely socially conscious. Among one of the things that Stanley said, that what do people look forward to work, they also see how good, what kind of a brand value do you possess in the CSR market. Connecting with them digitally works wonders. I can only give you a very personal example. Apart from being an HR professional, I run a foundation called Matram Foundation. It's just been in existence for the last two and a half years now. Started in 2013. We have not got a single advertisement released. Matram does not have a bank account, which means you have not gone for a single donation till now. We do not have a bank account. But you know what Matram has done? We have given 157 children free engineering education in the last 2.5 years. 157 children. Right? Without a single penny being spent. They're all studying in reputed colleges. Some 10 to 12 HR professionals are mentoring them on a periodic basis, making sure that they're employable, and they are from extreme poor condition. Poor condition in the sense you can't even imagine their stories. They were not in a position to buy that 500 rupees Anna University application form. When we called them for an interview to Chennai, they were not able to come by bus. But how is this possible? Just Facebook. Just by Facebook. Just by a file called SoundCloud, I impressed upon my good friend RJ Balaji, saying, Balaji, this is the cause. Would you do a SoundCloud file for me? And we did a radio show, and he said, radio show is a very time-bound show. Only 2 days people will listen to my show. But SoundCloud, he had about close to 10 lakh people who are subscribed to him. So he said, the entire radio show, we will put it up as a SoundCloud file, and we put it up. And that had close to 7 lakh hits from different parts of the world. People volunteered. Some said, I have mentors who are now in Switzerland mentoring my kids for the foundation. Now that is what a digital medium can do to you. And can you imagine, approximate a cost, 157 seats, take one seat and multiply it, the basic fees alone will work out to 5 lakhs for a kid. And when we are saying free education, their hostel is free, food is free, transport is free, books are free, examination fees, nothing. They don't spend a single penny for 5 years. And all we have done is, we have just linked it up with colleges who are willing to give the free seats. We are just acting as bridge. We have used social medium for a cause. And that's what I request you. Now, if each one of us can use a social medium for a cause, you will find wonders working out without even you realizing it. Instead of saying feeling depressed and feeling whatever, because somebody is looking up to you. As HR professional, somebody is looking up to you, and we can always make a difference. And that way, please try and see if we can leverage that a little better in the organizations that you work. And there are many, many CSR forums which use social media for a cause. The last 2-3 points with which we will close. This generation also believes that the typical R&R is not something that they are enthused about. Each individual gets motivated very, very differently. Now, if 4 of us are sitting here and all 4 of us are star performers, each one of us believe that we are different. For example, for Vignesh, I'm just giving an example, okay? For Vignesh, even if it is a 50 rupees dappa that I'm going to give, okay, that water bottle I'm going to gift wrap it, Vignesh will believes that he needs to get it in front of 5,000 people in a town hall. Everybody clapping for him, his name should come up, it should come up in a portal and things like that. Now that's his style. While Brindley, he says, boss, cut all this nonsense. I don't need to come on stage and this 50 rupees, credit 5,000 rupees into my account, send a mail, that's enough. You don't need to do anything extra. For Stanley, it need not be the money, it need not be the recognition. He said, just give me a day off. Friday, give me a day off. Let me have an extended weekend. He might want to spend time with the family. But today, our R&R is like one shoe size fits all everybody, right? Everybody will get one memento, which we'll put up. And after, if you work in a company for 10 years, you really don't know where to put those mementos. Where will you keep it? So if we can fine tune, and that is what analytics, predictive analytics can do. It's not always about money. What motivates my staff? What motivates my individual? Now, if I manage a team size of 142 people today in HR, my job is I have 10 directs. 9 of them are women. So I know them like in and out. I know what an ABC would want as a recognition versus what a B would want, right? And if you can fine tune your R&R within your own teams, this digital workforce also wants something to be differentiated. They don't like things to be the same all the time. And lastly, and most importantly, I think is one thing which is coming out very, very clear. Our job as HR is getting very difficult. People come to your meetings with sound recorders. You recently heard the SoundCloud file which came up. In fact, I called up my counterpart in TCS, a very close friend of mine, and I said, please be very careful because it happened with me. In a meeting, people come with sound recorders, with pen cameras and things like that. The profession that you and I belong to, unfortunately, is hated by many outside. You can't really help it, right? Because they believe even if the water does not come in the tap, it's not the admin department, it's not the facilities department, HR department. Any policy, they'll come and blame you. But among that group, is it possible to be popular? It is possible to be popular. 100% it is possible to be popular among these people. And for that, all that we do is what he spoke about, that emotional connect. Being available for employees, helping them with the right solution, directing them to the concern, makes a whole lot of difference. And that is one area, whether it is baby boomers or your Gen X or your Gen Y or Gen Z, whoever is going to come in, we are not dealing with robots. We are dealing with human beings. They have something called as a heart which keeps, which is extremely sensitive. And as long as we are able to maintain that cord, I think connecting with them is never going to be a challenge. All right. So thank you very much. On that note, let me close this session. Any questions that you might want to ask, please feel free. My request is this: ask a question specific to an individual, right, so that they can pick up an answer. Yeah, if you can.
Hi, I'm Krishna. Today I'm a consultant for last 3 years. Prior to this, I worked with best of companies like Centel, TCS, and Polaris. It's not a question, just a thought, a concept. Can we make retrenchment and manpower rationalization also positive, like how we say employee engagement is positive, talent acquisition is positive? The question is not a question, basically a thought to Vignesh and Stanley, and maybe Brindley also because social media. The thought which I was thinking was, rationalization happens, and can we identify empaneled vendors, placement vendors? Okay, your RMG or RFD, whatever it is, they can give those database in a tie-up with the vendors, And in return, the skills which you require for your specific, maybe it could be a niche skill, tie up in such a way that there is no expenses for you and you get a free candidates replacement for the database you give. Right? How it will work is, it is a positive impact to employee because they are saleable in the market, because their database is being floated through the consultants. And secondly, attraction is possible because quick attraction, because revenue loss, all that can be avoided because readily available database comes in. And you're not paying the consultant, you're saving the cost to the company because it's exchange of database. And the consultant also benefits in such a way that he's working with a brand, right? And he has got a readily available database for other companies.
Yeah, I think it's a good thought. I think it's a viable solution also, you know, given the current rat race that we are all in.
Just a comment on not on a specific thought that you had, but the comment that you made, how do we make recruitment as positive? I think on that I had a couple of thoughts. One is when he spoke about the contest that TCS does, right? It had given, I think, a seamless amount of let's say visibility to colleges that probably would not, or institutes or students who are not in the limelight, who have a specific talent, but they're miss out because, again, there are so many colleges, but we only visit to a certain number of colleges. So that, it has given a very different outlook. So we have identified students from colleges which we've never heard of, and they come with immense talent. Sometimes they come with the knowledge and talent which is very unique in the market, which is very difficult to get it. So that kind of positivity has definitely come in. And I'm not sure if we can really look at sharing of database. I think that is, I think we're too far away from even thinking about that. But what we see in the industry at this point of time, or at least the students, there is a lot of question on the employability, right? If you look at a few years back, we would train students in 3 months and we deploy and they'll get billed. I'm giving a very specific example to IT. But now we see that the knowledge with respect to what we need and what they gain, there's a huge gap. So the platform of social media, the platform of Campus Commune, where we engage with the students on a continuous basis, had helped to bridge that to some extent. And we have a lot of positive examples within the company where right after they complete the courses, because now we're just not looking at IT, let's say electronics and very specific security branches, we look at all kind of disciplines. So the bridging the gap has become very easy. From the point of view that they complete the course and they get access to the modules, various test modules, various certifications that they have to do. It is a very step-by-step approach, and we've introduced gamification also, which has become very interactive, at the same time very interesting for students to compete and do these courses. So what this gamification basically does is, it helps a student to compete, and there are different levels, just like, let's say, Angry Birds, it comes to my mind. So you have to clear one stage, only then you get to the next stage, and gives you a score, and you can better your score. You can also shows on the leaderboard when you connect to internet who's doing best from which college. So you become competitive and you become much more interested in doing it. So I think this is the kind of positive impact which has come in terms of taking learning a little more seriously. At the same time, they enjoy doing it, number one. Second, it is impractical to have classroom training for such a large number of students. And through online content, through gamification, through the Campus Commune engagement platform, we could do these courses. The students could take up the courses from wherever they are. And we've seen a lot of positive changes with respect to their learning, the bridge that we see, the bridge that we're trying to build, right, or the gap that we're trying to narrow between when they've passed out from college and coming to the industry.
Okay.
Just one note, if you're talking about outplacement services, in case of a redundancy and things like that, I think there are few companies which is doing it, and there are few agencies who are also there. Basically what happens is when you do an employee redundancy program, so these guys are also available in your own place, right? So you share profiles, you help them build their CV, you help them skill building, that happens. But at times when that's not successful, nothing stops us as an individual to help reaching out to fellow counterparts. Now, at least I have done that. Each one of you would have done it in many, many cases. You know this guy is a deserving case, probably a misfit in your organization, but he can exceedingly do well in some other place. That's where this group has to network a lot better. Now, today when a Sabita calls me and says, Sujit, look, there is this guy, he's good, I take it at face value. And I said, because yes, there is a reason. Nobody would like to pass my problem to you. I think that can happen. And in my opinion, we will be able to do that far better than an outplacement agency today. But for an unknown resource that you don't know how good he or she is, you need to definitely look at an outplacement services. Absolutely. Today it does exist, but not everywhere. I think that's one. Yeah, Sabita, you had a thought or a question. Sorry.
Yeah. Can I? Somebody talking. All right. Good afternoon, all of you. This is not exactly a question, but since we have some very eminent people from HR in this group, first of all, I think quite a word of applause, and I think they all deserve a huge applause from all of us, because you see, I found this panel discussion absolutely enriching, very different from the normal routine sessions. And we have been, and Sujit and I have known each other for several years. Sorry, my throat's giving way. And I've seen so many forums which talk of employee engagement, but here they were, a combination of, you call them Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers. Sujit, you're a baby boomer, right? All right. Okay, no, yeah, so irrespective of whichever generation they hail from, I think quite a lot of thoughts, value addition in terms of what they're doing in their respective organizations. So kudos to all of you. And I think for youngsters like Brindley and Vignesh, it was absolutely interesting listening to you. And of course, seasoned pros like Sujit and Stanley, we do know, how well you can speak. The most important thing, I think Sujit snatched what I had to say, which is about networking within this HR community. You look up, whenever I keep hearing the facilities department of Companies Connect through the NASSCOM umbrella, I quite envy them because they come together for common problems, they discuss, and they come out with very good resolutions which they do place to the government. My submission to you are twofold. A, can we come together and network better, which is what Sujit was precisely talking about. Can we network better? We do have avenues under the NASSCOM, the aegis of NASSCOM, such as the HR forum. So we need more of, vibrant people who can come forward, again, irrespective of generations. I'm one who believes that you need to adapt to changing times, irrespective of whichever generation you come from. The second submission that I have for you, and for the first one again, you could, come through NASSCOM, connect. You have people like Nikita, I see Uday and others here. So do connect, write to them and tell them that you want to be part of the HR community, and we'll have you networked. Because I'm sure collectively there's so much of power within this group called human resources. Do you believe in that? Yeah? So I'm sure we can do a lot more there. The second submission, which I actually come strong from my heart, is somewhere along this beautiful function, this very powerful function called human resources, is losing its sense of ethics and value systems. And I come with a lot of conviction on what I'm saying, because day in and day out, I keep receiving lots of inputs about how fellow colleagues in HR are doing around us. Now, I'm not going to be elaborating on this topic because all of us know where I'm coming from. So may I urge upon you that, HR holds a place of pride in any organization as the culture creator. And I would request all of you, and through you to those scores of HR professionals who are not here amidst us, to hold the place of pride that HR warrants and HR merits. Right? Because, again, I don't mean to say there's a particular generation of people there, but there are some amongst us who are actually diluting HR and that's not appropriate. So may I urge through this forum that we take back, we hold and bring HR back to its place of pride in organizations, because people look up to us. As Sujit rightly said, you don't know, but you're being watched by so many people around you just because you are an HR professional. People look up to you to see if you have your mood high or mood low. You know, in the organization I come from, we've recently had some bad patches where we have had to, you know, there was some redundancies that we went through. Now, every morning you'll see people look up and come up to me and tell me that, Sabita, you're still smiling? You know, it's so nice to see some smiling faces. Because you see, you may have umpteen emotions within you, but you are required to bottle it up and project the face of the organization to every single employee around you. And that's why I firmly believe that we spread and we create the culture of the organization. So on that note, best wishes. I'm sure HR can do much more. And thank you, panelists. Beautiful session.
You know, ICT Academy, they do this event very professionally. So there's a very knack way of telling you the time is up. So which means you see already there is a lady standing with a memento. The CEO just walked in and he is ready to give mementos to us and all the stuff. But I'm telling them, just wait. If we can take 2 more questions. Yeah, if you can just pass the mic to that last gentleman. Yeah, question has to be short and sweet to a particular person. Otherwise, as always, we will say we agree. Yeah. Okay, I'll go first. We don't rebel, we change. Okay.
I completely agree with Sujit again, but again, I think there is some amount of discipline that's already available in the college campuses. And yes, you know, we do give that allowance in the initial days and slowly, you know, push them into a discipline mode, you know, where you have to conform to the company's norms.
Hey, jokes apart, see, there are certain rules which is hard and fast, right? Like the values of your organization. Now, that is a hard and fast rule. There is no way you can deviate from that. But there are rules which are meant to be broken. Okay, you do have a caveat. Like the example that I gave you about the dress code. Now, as long as HR professional and business leaders understand that any generation which comes after another generation is a smarter generation than the previous generation, the problem is solved. The problem is, we believe that the last best guy Infosys hired was me. And after me, everybody was dumb. Now, that's the position everybody takes. You know what, when I got hired, it was such a stringent standard. Now we have diluted. Who said that? Now, that guy is smart. So, when we get into that mindset, frankly, a lot of things will change. The problem is about seeing things from their perspective. Helps you solve many, many problems. Reflect on this statement that I made. It's not about the solution. It's about identifying the right problem. You time and again go and say, tie will make you look smart, tie will make you look smart. That guy says, no, look at the dress I'm wearing. It doesn't make me look smart. It's hot. Why don't you just relax it? Because you, in your mind, do not want to relax that particular policy. Right? So I think it's time for you to change. You learn from kids. When your kid is rebellious, what do? You sometimes you give up. You think I am reading a book right now called Tell Me Why.
Hey, why are you questioning me? Right, so I wouldn't take it as rebellious, but it's a good change which we should embrace.
Yeah, with Gen Y, I think I have just 2 questions on this. One is Gen Y hyped, right? Because you have the same Gen Y working across multiple industries, okay? In the IT industries with grown names, they are pampered, done whatever. So when he comes in, are you building an expectation for the Gen Y? I want A, B, C, D, E. Because the same guy who works in a foundry works very differently. He also is very digital, but he doesn't keep looking at, his. So one is, where does HR come in as far as, pampering this Gen Y is concerned? Because a lot of times you're supposed to carry back why a person is leaving or whatever. So this is one part of it. Second, dealing with the Gen Y, do you see more of professional psychologists in HR coming in? Because I think that is going to be the need of the day.
The question. So, let me answer the second one first. For the last 1.5 months, this is something which is running in my mind. There are many, many HR bodies today. There is a NASSCOM HR forum, there is NHRD, there is ISTD, MMA, and things like that. And this is purely a very subjective opinion that I have. Okay? And because I spend a lot of time in colleges going and talking to students. I have a doubt whether are we attracting the right talent to even take up an HR course in the first place. Be it an MSW or an MBA. Now, when I see my top attrition in Infosys is because of higher studies, people who want to go for higher studies, who either go for technical education or for an MBA. And out of which 90% of them don't choose HR. They either take finance, marketing or systems, and HR is only a last option for them. And then that leaves out with your MSW. And even in MSW you go, they say it's a job-oriented course, which was not the scenario, say 10, 15 years back. I am definitely seeing a trend where we want to hire more of psychologists who also have an HR degree. Because unfortunately, you cannot be a chartered accountant without having a CA. You cannot be a doctor without having an MBBS. But any Tom, Dick and Harry can be the HR head of any company. You don't need an HR qualification. That's a little unfortunate. And nothing to say that guys without an HR degree have also gone on to be excellent HR leaders, much, much better than your IIM educated and so on and so forth. So the $1,000,000 question is, yes, we definitely see a spurge, or we want to, at least the companies, large companies are clearly inclining towards hiring people who can understand the other person a little better, which means psychologists, anybody who's done with something with people related kind of a courses, we do definitely see a need. But just like two submissions that Sabita made, if we can influence good people to take up this particular course, right? People who are passionate about HR, then that is where the demographic of this profession is going to really change. You go to Dr. Vidya Srinivasan, you go to Fatima Vasin, you go to Gladstone in Loyola, or you go to MCC, they see all the HODs of social work department specifically mention this common factor. The talent that we are able to attract now is not the same. It has dwindled big time. So the best don't come here, which used to be exactly the opposite. So the best is going somewhere else in that particular case. Probably we should start working on it. If you can help me summarize the first part of the question. No, that was a little longer, now I forgot the question. Hype. Right. Okay, it's a brilliant question. Instead of using the word hyping, I would use the word stereotyping, right? Which is very common in IT industry. IT is a victim of stereotype. For example, let's say if there is a fight between a husband who works in Ennur Foundries and a wife who works in Enfield, does it come up in the newspaper? Have you ever seen something like that? If there is a husband who works in Infosys and wife who works in Accenture, and if they have a domestic fight, it will come up in the newspaper. Techie ill-treats another wife, ill-treats another techie from Accenture, right? Yeah, former also happens. Somebody commits suicide in a manufacturing company. Never in news, you will hardly find anything. Techie jumps to death from Spencer Plaza. Techie jumps from this particular building, right? So everything around, you will find there is a stereotype. And I'm not joking, sir. You go to the City Police Commissioner's office, right? You find press outside the City Police Commissioner's office. If they see a tag, the biggest mistake that IT company guys made was to give these stupid tags around. And that's where everybody started putting up. Now ICT Academy also has a tag. The moment you go and you see the name tag, TCS, Infosys, press will immediately come. That has happened to me many, many times. Sir, என்ன பிரச்சனைலாம் பார்த்துக்கலாம் சார், ஃபுல் கவரேஜ் கொடுத்துறேன் நான், என்ன கேஸ்ன்னு மட்டும் சொல்லுங்கள். சார் டே நான் ஒரு கமிஷனரோட டீ குடிக்க வந்தேன்டா நான், எல்லாத்தையும் எழுதிடலாம் சார் கம்ப்ளீட்டாக. Worst case, I can give you this example. You know Dr. Narayana Reddy is a very famous sexologist in Chennai. Now, this guy came to a session in Infosys. And just the previous day, there was this article in Deccan Chronicle. Are IT men impotent? Is it time to reboot? is the headline of this article. Okay, are IT men impotent? Is it time to reboot? Okay, and the article went about saying how men sit very close to the laptop, the radiation is hitting them, and because of which impotency is very high, and hence marital life goes for a toss in IT company and all this stuff, right? Now, this was a very slandering statement to make, right? And now the next day, coincidentally, for a health talk, Dr. Narayana Reddy was there. So I asked him, Doc, I mean, I don't want to ask this in front of everybody, but do you really see an issue? So he said, Sujit, this is how it is. I finished my MBBS, I specialized in sexology, and I was the only guy in entire Tamil Nadu who took up the subject, right? So my clinic I used to get people. Another way of saying time out. After 9:30, you find all kind of doctors, giving consulting advice. Now today he says, if I have 10 patients visiting me, 8 of them are from IT. Not because there is an ailment. They just come for a consultation. Doc, we are planning to get married. We just thought we'll come and talk to you. So for a doctor who's seeing 10 patients a day, if he sees 8 patients from an IT company, what is the inference that he will make? Again, data being looked at very differently. Very easy. IT men come here more often. So there is a problem. You can infer a lot of things. But the fact is, yes, there is hype. There is the stereotype. More because if you have a father who's working in a manufacturing company, son who's working in an IT company, you can see that friction at home. Because the father's retirement salary, this guy picks it up in his first month's salary. Right? And I have seen that. So that's becoming, it is becoming a social issue. But having said that, some of these issues that we are talking about are pretty common. These are pretty common because it's a high attrition industry. Probably other service sectors, other manufacturing industries have not hit that kind of an attrition till now. But this year they are predicting. This year they are saying across all spectrums, attrition can go up to 20%. It can hit about 20% because people are looking for change. And that's a changing demographics. So the first part of your answer, yes, there is a hype, but a lot of what we say is also very, very true, sir. Okay. What we can do is, where do you work, sir? Oh, good. So you should visit us once, and when you deal with some of these guys, you will know your life is really, really challenging. Yeah. So I don't know if any of now you have got it.
Just wanted to add one point. I think overall the society is definitely, there is a change that we see. And the workplace is also, we've seen an enormous amount of change. When I say change, Stanley spoke about, Brenly spoke about personalization, right? So people are very specific about what they want, and one size doesn't fit all. So is it hyped to some extent? But then I think overall, the perception of employees have changed. The younger generation, what they look for is very clear. Sometimes we come across people who have, their parents they struggle a lot to put them into engineering colleges. They've done well, but then when they come here, they said, I don't like engineering, I want to, change profession, I want to do something else. And there's a classic case which was spoken about. There's a trainee who came with his father because he wanted to resign. And then when we asked him, okay, there is a bond in TCS, right? 50,000, and my dad would pay. Because I never wanted to join engineering, he forced me into it, and don't want to do engineering anymore, I want to do something else. So they're more confident. I think the younger generation, the current thing is they're more confident, they know what they're speaking, they're connected, they know what is happening around the world. So I think all that is I feel it's for a good cause than the negative part of it.
Good, so more of networking during lunch. Thank you very much.